Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Blue Mouse podcast. If you're coming back for the second episode, thank you. It's so great to have you here. And if this is your first episode, welcome. It's great to have you here as well. This is a knitting podcast with a little bit about knitwear design as well. My name's Emily. I run the Blue Mouse, doing knitwear design full-time here in Columbus, Ohio. So you can find me most places as the Blue Mouse. I'll link to everything down in the description, but my main place that I'm active on is Instagram. So you can find me there as the Blue Mouse with an underscore at the end. And the show notes are on my website, which I'll link below as well. And I will also this time include time codes, so if you want to skip ahead to a different portion of the podcast, you can go ahead and look in the description to see where to skip. All right, so second podcast, here we go. I've been watching a lot of podcasts lately, and I think it's hilarious how they all start talking about the weather. Like pretty much every single one I watch, they start with talking about the weather. And as I was typing up my show notes for today, I was like, oh, gotta include something about the weather. And I don't know, why do we do that? I did that last week. I think it's hilarious, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's a beautiful spring day. It's chilly, just the way I like it. The sun's out, blue skies. It is beautiful out. So I'm gonna go spend the rest of my day knitting with the windows open and just soaking it all in. Anyway, now that we've gotten the weather out of the way, we'll start with what you're actually here for. So I'm going to start with a little bit of life updates, and then we'll jump into yarn acquisitions and things like that. Well, my wrist is feeling a lot better. I had it in a brace last week, 2 weeks ago for the podcast that you might have noticed, and it's feeling a lot better. That entire week that I put out that podcast, I had it in a brace. I wasn't really able to use it. It hurt pretty bad that entire week, so no knitting. So this podcast will be a little bit light on finished objects and things like that because I haven't had that much time to knit. So it felt bad that entire week, and until last week it was still pretty sore, so I didn't get to do a ton of knitting. It only started feeling pretty much back to normal maybe 4 days ago or something like that. So it was no knitting that first week, and last week it was very light knitting. But I'm very happy to say that it is feeling a lot better. I'm taking better care of it. I'm stretching before I knit, after I knit, and I'm taking breaks as well. If I start to feel any tension, or even if I don't, I start to take breaks and just kind of stretch it out and do a couple stretches. Maybe I'll link to a video I saw on good stretches for that below. Anyway, let's see what else. Oh, I don't know. Most of you probably aren't going to find this very interesting, but The Avengers came out, and oh my god, it is so good. Insanely good. Oh, it blew my mind. I'm not going to spoil anything. That's all I'm going to say on it, is that it is amazing, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go see it. I've seen it twice. Almost seen it 2 more times over the weekend, but it just didn't work out. That being said, I am going to see it maybe 2 or 3 more times this week because it's that good. I can't stop thinking about it. It's amazing. I've watched so many videos about it on YouTube. But anyway, if you're not a movie person, you'll soon find out that I am. I'm really big into movies, especially Marvel movies. So this was a very long-awaited premiere, and I'm so excited that it's finally out. I cannot wait for the one that comes out next year as well. Anyway, moving on for those of you who don't like movies. Let's see. So there's a couple pattern updates for this week. I do have one pattern that I will be putting out. I'll probably put it out on Wednesday, which will be the day after this podcast comes out. Yeah, I'll link to my shop. So if you're interested in that, I'll show it to you. It's one of my whips. I'm almost done with it. And then also, this week marks kind of my 1-year anniversary of doing knitwear design full-time. So this time last year, I was still in school. This was my finals week. So when I was done, I graduated college, and that is when I say that I became a full-time knitwear designer. Because when I was in school, I still had to split my time. I wasn't able to pursue it as often as I wanted to. So now that that is over, this is when I say that I really became a knitwear designer. So it's been 1 full year of that, which is insane. I cannot believe how fast this year went. It's crazy. And I don't know, it's just crazy to look back on the patterns that I was putting out last year compared to the ones that I'm working on now. They're drastically different. It's crazy how much you can learn and grow in only a year. And I'll stop saying crazy because I think I've said it like 8 times in the past 2 minutes. But you know what I mean. It's fun to look back on old designs and see how much you've grown since then. And then I think that's it for life updates, at least. So we can go ahead and jump into yarn acquisitions. So I have a few. I don't have a ton, but I do have a ton of stuff in the mail, which I am really excited about. So I'll have more next time, but we still have a few fun things this time. So the first one is 24/7 cotton from Lion brand. So I've actually never used this before. I've only recently seen it in like a Joann's. I hadn't last year. And online, it looked like it was a pretty chunky worsted weight, but I'll show you. It's pretty thin. I'm trying to think of what I could compare it to. So this is worsted. Do you see the difference? So this is just like a Peyton's classic wool worsted. So it's more of a light worsted, I would say, which is actually great because I had been wanting something a little bit thinner, and Lion Brand reached out to me and offered yarn support for an upcoming pattern. So, I mean, I wasn't going to turn down an opportunity to work with them because their products are amazing, but I was a little bit hesitant about working with worsted because I used to only work exclusively with worsted, but recently I've been only using DK or lower, except for a few worsted weight projects. So I'm really happy that this is lighter because it's going to work so much better with the pullover I have in mind. So it's going to be like a lacy eyelet cotton pullover, kind of like a, I don't know, you can wear it over shorts and it just keeps you a little bit warmer at night, or if you're going to the beach it'll be great. But yeah, so it's just going to be, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I like this really natural color. It should be very fitting for this project. I'll be able to share more on that next time. Since I haven't started it yet, I'm going to swatch and hopefully begin it this week. So it should be either done or almost done by the next podcast. But this is the color Ecru, or Ecru. And it is a medium, which is a worsted weight yarn. Comes with 186 yards per 3.5 ounces, so it's 100 grams. So you can get these at any big box store, so you've probably worked with them, but I never have, so I'm excited. I'll let you know what I think of it later on. Oh, I got another Hello Stella package. You know I'm obsessed. So I'll show you what I got. So I got these really kind of light natural colors. So this is Pearl Gray. So this is the label. I love her work. If you didn't watch the last episode, I gushed about her because Lindsay makes amazing yarn. So this is the basic Stella, so it's the sock weight, or the fingering weight. It's 115 grams, 426 yards. It's 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So this is actually going to become a Mother's Day gift for my mom. And I really need to get started on it because I think Mother's Day is 2 weeks from yesterday. I'm filming this on a Monday. So I need to get started on it because the thing I'm going to make for her is very time consuming. So it won't get there on time. But it's the thought that counts, so as long as she knows that something is coming for her, I think she'll be okay. But I'm going to make it in this Pearl Gray. She has this knit cardigan from like, I think it's H&M that she's had for a few years. in kind of this muddled gray, and she raves about it, and for years she's been like, I need you to make me something like this, like please, this is what I would want. And for the longest time I didn't work with thinner yarn, so I was like, I can't make that for you because I don't work with thinner yarn. And now I have no excuse because I'm almost exclusively working in fingering weight yarn. So I bought 3 skeins of this. So I actually bought this other color, which is Blushing Betty. Let me see if I can get the color. There's a little bit more color here. I bought this, which is the exact same, just a different color as that one. I bought this because I thought that she might want a cream sweater more. So I bought both, and then when I saw them both in person, I was like, okay, the gray. I think she'll like the gray. And that actually works out perfectly because I've had this sweater idea for, oh man, probably about a year. And I had the idea last summer, and I commissioned Lindsay of Hello Stella to make me, or to dye me some yarn in like a custom colorway to make it. Actually, this is the custom colorway. I love green, especially dark, kind of mossy or earthy green. It's my favorite. So this is a DK weight, but I think it feels a little bit heavier. It feels to me like a light worsted. So I started working up swatches in it for this idea that I had. And she dyed this up for me in October. So I started in October to work on swatches. And nothing fit it. The swatches I had ideas for this sweater were very specific. And this yarn is too thick. I love this yarn. There's nothing wrong with it. But it didn't give me the effect I wanted with those stitches. So I decided I needed to work it in either a lace weight or a fingering weight yarn. So I'm going to make it in this. Probably, I think I'll start it in maybe a month or 2. I'm not in any rush because it doesn't really need to be ready until fall. But I'm really excited about it. So hopefully this time it'll work out. It's going to be like a turtleneck, like a ribbed turtleneck, and then lace detailing over the rest of the body. And I think it's going to be like a top-down, either raglan or yoke sweater. I haven't decided. So it's going to be good. I'm very excited about it. This has been on my list to make for a year. So it's been a long time coming. And then my final yarn acquisition is from, I'm going to butcher this because I'm an American, but it's Manos del Uruguay, so the hands of Uruguay. So they actually reached out to me, oh man, it's probably been 3 or 4 weeks now. They reached out to me and they're celebrating their 50th anniversary of their business, and they reached out and were like, hey, you want to try our yarn? And I was like, of course. What kind of question is that? So they sent me a couple skeins, and I had heard of this company for years, but I had never tried it, never even picked it up in a yarn store, so I had no idea what to expect. But I was excited because people rave about it. So they let me pick it out. So I went to a local yarn shop when they emailed me, and I went and got just kind of like felt different kinds to figure out what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to make a shawl with it, so I was like, all right, it probably has to be a fingering weight. So I chose the Allegria, which is, it's a superwash merino polyamide blend. Oh, 75% superwash merino and 25% polyamide. It comes with 445 yards per 100 grams. So let me see if I can find the color. Nabuk? I don't know. Here's how. There's that. And then this is the color. It's this gorgeous purple with gray. So it's amazing. It is so soft. The yarn store that I went to kind of get a feel for what I wanted didn't have very many options. So they didn't have very many colors I wanted at the shop, so they didn't have this one. So when it came, I was really pleasantly surprised with the color, and it's incredibly soft. I mean, I'm really sensitive to wool, so I cannot wear wool against my skin most of the time because it bothers me too much, but this is like no problem. It doesn't bother me at all. It's so soft. So this is their Allegria, and I asked for a second color because I think I wanted like a two-tone shawl. I thought that would be very fun. So the purple was the first color, which is the Nobuk colorway. And then something got mixed up because they accidentally sent me the Maxima, which is a 100% merino wool, 219 yards per 100 gram skein. So this is soft. It's very, very soft for 100% wool. Like I could probably wear that against my skin. But they're supposed to both be Allegria because they're supposed to be a shawl together. And this one is like it's probably number 5, whatever's above worsted. I think that's bulky. It's either bulky or chunky, but I mix them up. So something got mixed up and they sent me that. And I was ready to go out and buy a second skein because they just so generously gifted it to me. But I emailed them just to let them know that that's what I was going to do. And they were like, no, we'll send you another one. Our bad. Sorry about that. So they are so generously sending me a second skein of the Allegria in the foil colorway. This is foil. So picture this in the fingering weight yarn. And these are going to go together. So foil is kind of like well, I'm sure it's exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of a dirty silver. That's how I would describe it. So it should go well with the silver tones that are in the Nobuk colorway. So I'm excited. I think that's coming in the mail this week, which means that I can get started on this shawl. This has been sitting in my room for like a week and a half. I think it got here like either the day that I shot the last podcast episode or the day after. So it's been sitting in my room for like almost 2 weeks. And I've been dying to use it because it's amazing. So I'll make a video on that company later this week, which they weren't asking me to do, so it's not like a promotional thing. But I was reading up on the business model and how the company works, and I really like it. I think what they're doing is incredible, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of make a video about it because before they reached out to me, I didn't know anything about them. And I think that might be a common thing. So I just kind of want to spread awareness about the good that they're doing in the world. So, I know. I'll put that up probably as soon as the other skein gets here. Maybe a little bit earlier. We'll see. So that is all I have to share this podcast episode. Like I said, I should have quite a few fun things to share next time that are in the mail, which is really, really fun. So I put out in my Instagram story kind of a list of all the things that I wanted to make this summer. And it's a very ambitious list, and I definitely said that I probably won't make it through all of them. But that's like my dream make list, you know, my pattern list, I guess. And I had quite a few companies reach out and be like, do you need help with yarn for that? Which is just the kindest thing I'm so grateful for, because I can now make more patterns because I don't have to worry about budgeting for the yarn. And I can also use nicer yarn for the product and make it look better because it's nicer yarn, because I don't have to pay for it. So I'm so grateful for all the indie dyers and companies that have reached out to me in the past week or two and ever. I'm so excited for all the upcoming collaborations, and it's great. It's truly, as cheesy as it may sound, it is a dream come true. Back before designing was even like a thing that I was thinking I could do, I would look at people who would work with yarn companies and be like, oh, that's the dream. I wish I could do that. It'll never happen, but I can dream, right? And now here I am, what is it, like 2 years later, working with companies that I love, and it's a blessing. It's amazing. I feel truly grateful and humbled that I'm able to do this as a full-time job. So thank you for watching. Thank you for buying a pattern. Thank you for supporting me. It means so much more than you could ever know. Thank you. So now that sappiness is over, let's move on to whips. So I showed this one last podcast, and I haven't made that much progress. I'm almost done with it, but I was almost done with it last time too. So this is my Vindour cardigan. So here it is with the sleeve. So last time I had no sleeves. It was all done but the sleeves. So I finished them, and here's what they look like. And I actually had a lot of trouble making these sleeves because trying to do reverse stockinette in the round looks weird, at least for me. And I have that same problem with a second whip that I'll show you in a second. Having to only purl gives it a bumpier, kind of awkward texture. So when I tried to pick up around the armhole and then purl to create the reverse stockinette look, it looked awful. It was super bumpy and stuck out weird. Like it just kind of like puffed up, and it's not at all what I wanted. So actually, what I decided to do is I turned it inside out, and then I picked up stitches around it, and then I knit. So you can see that's where I picked up stitches, and I knit around it, and then I bound off. And so when I turned it inside out, you get the look of reverse stockinette, which I wanted, but it is much flatter and it looks better. So that's how I solved that problem for this project, at least. They looked a little bit weird because I was pulling the yarn from a sleeve, okay, so I made this cardigan once and my gauge was off, so it was tiny. So then I made it a second time, but I left those panels that I had already blocked for the first test. They were still basically on my blocking mat. So they've been blocked. So you know how when you block something, it's kind of like using a sock blank. When you rip it out, it's really rippled. So as I was working this, it looked super like weird. It was all kinked up and it looked weird in certain places. It was really bumpy. But when I blocked it out, it looks so much better. So that's my lesson learned with how amazing blocking is. And let me see if you can see it. Can you see the color pooling there? There's kind of this little V here. So I've never really experienced color pooling before, and I didn't experience it in this cardigan. Like if you look at it, there's no real pooling at all on it. But I guess working it in smaller rounds, for some reason it pooled. So I don't really mind the look. If it had been like a bigger amount of pooling, I probably would have ripped it out and alternated skeins. But I didn't notice it until after I blocked it because it was so kinked up when I was working it. I couldn't really tell until after I blocked it. And it doesn't bother me. I'm too lazy to rip out and start again. And it's my own cardigan, so if it doesn't bother me, it's fine by me. So the only thing left to do is to add a ribbed cuff here for the neckline. So the sleeves have been done for like a week, and I need to make a tutorial video to make that band or that cuff, and I'm too lazy to do it because I don't know, tutorial videos, I'm a bit burnt out after creating that pattern class, which was like 50 or 60 videos, but I need to finish that because I'm getting photos of this and another whip tomorrow morning, so I have to have them both finished. So that one's almost done. I'll have that as a finished object next podcast. And then this one I think I was done with both panels, but not done with the sleeves at the last podcast. And I ran into the same issue with this sweater that I did with the other one. So it has all this like lacy detail, and there's lace detail down the sleeves as well. But it's all reverse stockinette when it's not lace. So all this here and down here is reverse stockinette. And I ran into the same problem with the sleeves. When I would go to pick up the stitches and then purl to create the reverse stockinette look, it was awful. It was so bumpy, and I think I tried blocking it out and it didn't work. So I had to work them flat, which I don't like to do. I really don't like to do that. But it's kind of the only way I could make it work. So it's long sleeve, and I think I'll create instructions for how to do 3/4 length sleeves as well, because this is supposed to be more of a spring and summer pattern. So I got to about 3/4 of the way done with the first sleeve, and I was running out of steam. I was like, this pattern is gonna suck. I hate that I have to make the sleeves flat. It's gonna be so bumpy, it's gonna be awful, no one's gonna like it. But I finished it anyway, blocked the sleeves, and then seamed them. And I don't mind it. I tried it on, and I don't know why I said I don't mind it. I actually like it. So I tried it on, and it looks a lot better than I was expecting. It doesn't really bunch up underneath the arm like I was expecting, which is great. So I know that most people don't like to work sleeves flat. But then again, my best-selling pattern has flat sleeves, or sleeves that are worked flat. And then you have companies like We Are Knitters that pretty much all their patterns, I think, the sleeves are worked flat and then seamed. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying a different technique for the second sleeve, so we'll see if it does it a little bit better. And I'm going to include videos on how to seam to the body, because I know that's the hardest part. It's really confusing, especially if you've never done it before. So I have to film that video today as well, and then I'll get photos of this tomorrow. So I'll be able to show you a sneak peek probably on Instagram later this week, and I'll definitely have it done for the next podcast. Yeah, let's see. So I do have my Zweig. I think that's how you say it. I do have that, but I didn't get any work done on it. Not even half a row. So I'm not going to show it to you because it looks no different than it did last time. So hopefully I'll have time to put in a few more rows before the next podcast. Because I hurt my wrist and I really only had like less than a week to work on all this, I put the emphasis, or I guess my patterns took priority over selfish knitting. So yeah. Alright, on to my fourth whip. So this project has been a labor of love, man. I've had to restart this 3 times. So the first time, which I think is what I showed you last time, I only had like a little bit of the ribbing done, and my math was off, so I had to rip that out. And then I did, so here's what it looks like now. So the second time around, I made it, I think, about down to here. So I made it down quite a few inches. And I realized that I did the short rows wrong, so I had to start over. And then the second time, I made it all the way through the yoke, or the third time. I made it all the way through the yoke, so down to like here. And I had to restart because I did my increases wrong. So I ended up with like 60 extra stitches, and it was going to be huge. It was going to be this like balloon sweater on me. So I had to rip back like 70 or 80 rows, which was painful. But here we are again, and I'm about almost 2/3 of the way done with the body of the sweater. So quite some progress. Has some drop stitch detail here, and then you have some fading, and then more fading, and then you have some detail here. So I'm excited about this. This is one of my favorite projects to date. It is the most challenging pattern I've ever tried to create. I've never made a sweater like this. The Zweig is my first attempt, and I'm a little ways into the body of it when I decided to start this. So I bought some books, which I told you about last time, that helped me figure out the math. So I'm really excited and very proud of how this is turning out. Especially since I had to rip back so many times, it's going to be a very proud moment when this is finished. So I'll show you again the fading because it's like my favorite part. So this is using Allie at Ford Explorer Knits new yarn. So I told you about this in my last podcast. I'll link to it below and put the information below or in the show notes. I don't remember the exact makeup. I think it's like 80% wool, 20% nylon. I don't quite remember, but I'll be sure to include it in the show notes. So I was doubting this project a little bit as I was working on it on Saturday because it's not the same as other faded projects I've seen. And I was sitting there, I was like, Andrea Mowry probably wouldn't do it this way. I shouldn't do it this way. Or this person wouldn't do it this way, so I shouldn't fade this way. And I was just like kind of doubting myself the whole time. I was like, you know what? That's not the point. The point isn't to copy Andrea Mowry. The point is to make a sweater that's my own and to take the inspiration that she's given people by showing people how to fade or showing that fading is a thing and letting them do it their own way. So basically, I'll try and show it to you. So it starts out color A, and then it fades to color B, and then it fades back from color B to color A, and then it fades from color A to color C, and then you finish it in color C. The thing that I was doubting is that I figure most people probably fade from A to B, B to C, but I'm doing A to B to A to C. And so I was doubting it a lot. I was like, no one's gonna like this. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. If nobody likes it, okay, I like it. And it's gonna be different. I like that the fading isn't perfectly in sequence. It kind of gets broken up by color A. So I like that. I'm okay with that. So just need to like push that away and stop worrying about it as I'm working on this. Hopefully we'll have this one done by the next podcast. And I do have to say that the yarn that I'm using for color A, for color B, are I think a 3-ply. And I mistakenly bought the third color as a 1-ply or a single ply. So it's a little bit fluffier than the 3-ply. But as I'm working it, maybe you can tell. You can't really tell a big difference. Like it doesn't feel bulkier than the rest of the fabric, which is good. I was a little bit worried about that, but it blends really nicely. So I'm very excited about that. And then, remember how I was looking for a sock pattern? Well, here's my swatch. So this is Hello Stella fingering weight yarn in Rock Lobster. And I found a neat little trick, which you all probably know by now. So when you're working a swatch in the round, you know you have all these tails. And when I would go to block it, the edge stitches would be so loose and it would really bother me. So I cut it and then I tied them. So like every two strings I tied together, and it just keeps that edge nice and neat. It means that the swatch will last longer. I kind of like to keep swatches of different colors of yarn around just so I can remember what it looks like worked up, especially if I'm not keeping the object or the project. So the pattern is called Wildflowers and Honeycomb Socks by This Handmade Life. So it's kind of hard to see, but you've got a 3x1 ribbing here on the bottom, and then you've got this lace detail. So yeah, look at the progress. I'm so impressed with myself. I've tried knitting socks in the past and never managed to do it because my gauge has always been like drastically off, and then I would have to go down like 2 or 3 sizes in a needle, and it would create a fabric so tight that I would never want to give someone a sock made of that. So I do have to say this feels a little bit rigid, and maybe that's normal with sock knitting. I don't know. But I did notice that with my swatch. Before I blocked it, it felt a little bit rigid, and then when I blocked it, it bloomed. So now it has like wonderful drape. You can tell that it just kind of falls over, which is wonderful, which is what I want. So I'm hoping that the same thing happens to this when I block it. So I'm just about to the heel, and the instructions were a little bit confusing, so I'm going to have to read over them a few more times and practice, but I'm done with the main portion of it, and I wanted your opinion. So here is the main color, and here is what I'm thinking for the heel. Do you think those go together? There's flecks of orange in this. They're not the same, but I think that they could complement each other. This is Madeline Tosh Twist Light. I don't remember the color, but this is what I used for the color work and the lace of my Zweig sweater. So I have it left over, and I kind of like the idea of using a contrasting color for the heel and toe, so I might do that. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments. I think that's it for whips. I have quite a few, which is better than last time. Last time I didn't really have any. And I don't have any finished objects. This might be a short episode or a long episode. I don't know. I can't tell. But I'll give you a little look into what my next 2 weeks will look like. Just a little bit of an overview so you know what to expect next podcast episode, I guess. So I'm getting photos of my blue cardigan, and which is called the Vindur cardigan, and I called it that because it means wind in Icelandic. And you might not know this about me yet, but you'll probably find it out eventually that I'm obsessed with Iceland. I went there a couple years ago, a few years ago. I love it. I dream about going back. I definitely will someday. But I don't know. I liked it. I feel like that's a very fitting name for that cardigan. It's just kind of the blue tones of the yarn. Yeah, for some reason it just reminds me of like a cool breeze or wind. So it works. But that pattern will be out probably on Wednesday. I have to convert it into all the sizes. It will be available from extra small to probably 2XL. Getting photos of those tomorrow. The pair of socks. So these socks I need to have finished by Thursday evening because that's when I need to give them to my friend. So I have a bridal shower to go to on Thursday for a good friend of mine. And I thought it would be fun to like give her a gift off her registry, but then also give her some like really crazy fun socks. I have this yarn that I didn't have any plans for, and that progress took me maybe a couple hours yesterday. So I think once I understand how to do the heel and the toe and finish that sock, I should be able to finish the second one much faster. I forgot to mention, this is my first time using 9-inch circular needles. I mean, look how tiny. Do you see how tiny those are? Comparatively? I mean, I have pretty long hands, but still, tiny. It does take a little bit of, I don't know, practice. It takes a while to get used to using these. And I noticed that the way that I have to hold my hands kind of hurts. Like my thumb is a little bit sore from like the pressure that I have to hold the needles in a certain way. I don't know, I'm sure I'll get used to it. You know how you kind of get calluses on certain parts of your hands from your knitting needles? I think I just need to develop those for those needles as well. And forgot to mention, sorry, I'm all over the place I feel like. But these are ChiaoGoo's 9-inch circulars, and they're so sharp. These hurt. I don't typically need to press down on the needle to move the stitches, but because these are so small, I do, and it hurts. They're painful. I might have to try DPNs for the next pair of socks because, I don't know, those kind of hurt. But anyway, I'm almost done with one sock. So I want to finish those. I need to finish my faded sweater because I want to have that out to the testers soon. And I just want to have it done. I love it. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to start on my shawl with Mano Style Uruguay. I'm going to start on my knit pullover, or my cotton summer pullover with 24/7 cotton. I want to get a few rows in on my sag because I've been neglecting it for a few weeks. And if I don't get a few rows in every once in a while, I'll never finish it. So I need to. I need to start on my Mother's Day gift because it's coming up very fast. I might be building a table. You might have seen, it's very random, I realize, but if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen the picture that I put in my Instagram story. So when I do tutorials for this channel, I have my background sitting on the floor, and I sit on the floor and shoot them, and it kills my back, especially doing hours of it. So I want to build a table that's kind of a custom height because it needs to be shorter than a normal table, but tall enough that I'm not hunched over too much. So I'm going to build one of those, I think. Probably not for another few weeks. So I'll take some footage of that if I actually do it. Oh, so have you ever seen those pattern bundle sales, I guess? So I joined one of those. You get, I think, 40 plus patterns for $19. So it's like a $200 value that you get for $19, which is insane. And some of them are from my favorite designers. I know that, who's contributing? 2 of Wands, Mama in a Stitch, Nifty Knittings, Mason Dean, if I'm saying that right. Gabby, I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm blanking. Woolfield has her new sock pattern, which is gorgeous. I have 2 patterns in it that are very summery. That's all I can think of now, but there's just a never-ending list of designers who have put forth at least one design, if not multiple, to compile a 40 plus pattern bundle. And you get it for $19. If you don't like it, you can get a refund, so it's kind of risk-free, I guess. So I'll link that below if that's something that you're interested in. No pressure, I just wanted to let you know that it's there if that is something that you want. My last thing, I suppose, is that I have very ambitiously come up with a list of 23 designs that I want to make in the next few months, which I shared on my Instagram story. It's very ambitious and I probably won't do all of them, but I do want to give you just kind of a peek of my ideas, at least. So I have 5 pullover ideas. One is that gray one. So it's this. And these are going to be spring and summer pullovers. So they're going to be mostly made in cotton and pretty lightweight. So this is the first one. And then the second one that I'm starting this week is the 24/7 cotton one. So I have 3 others besides those that I want to get done. I have 6 cardigans. So the Vindour cardigan, which is this one. I have yarn on the way for a second one already. So that one's planned out. And then I have 4 more that I have ideas for. So I might not make all 4 more of them, but I'm going to try. Then I have 5 summer tops, so those should be pretty fast and easy because they usually don't involve a lot of fabric. So, and I have 2 dress ideas. One that I definitely want to make, and I might make it out of a different color of the 24/7 cotton because this is actually kind of a perfect weight for it, and it's not very expensive yarn, so making a dress out of it wouldn't cost people very much, which I always try and keep the cost down if I can. Yeah, we'll see. One I definitely want to make, and the second one I might skip, depending on how it goes with the first one. And then I have 2 sweaters. This one, my fading sweater. And then I have one more idea, which I told you about earlier, using my Hello Stella yarn. So, sorry if you can hear the plane. I live near a small airport, so sometimes there's planes that fly over. But yeah. So the second one is the one I told you about, using Blushing Betty from Hello Stella. And then finally, I have at least three shawl ideas. But one of them is for sure using the Manos del Uruguay Alegria yarn, which I am so excited to use. It's going to be great. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in for either your second episode or if this is your first. No matter, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying podcasting. I hope that this is going to be a long-term thing. I plan to keep it up every 2 weeks. So subscribe if you're not already, if you're into this kind of podcasting thing. And I also have a newsletter, which I will notify people about new podcasts. And I'm also going to start doing a new bi-weekly newsletter that shares some stuff that I love. So other podcasters that I'm enjoying that I think you might enjoy. And things like that, other cool videos and just, fun stuff like that. So again, thank you for watching. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Happy knitting, happy crocheting. Have a great week, guys. Thanks.